All right, I believe we're live. So, I'm going to do a few introductions and we're going to talk about the topic of criminalizing homelessness and how this has reached the U.S. Supreme Court, how they made a decision, how this is going to play out for those that are going to be imminently homeless, those that are homeless, Section 8, how that affects that, emergency housing vouchers, and the nation as a whole. But before we get started, I'm going to do my introduction. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. And we work with around 1,000 people a year. Roughly half of them are seeking casework. We help them navigate the system with Section 8 housing, and the others seeking out advice, whether it's a law firm, caseworkers, counselors, individuals, even landlords, hundreds every year. So we work with a lot of people, and even in some cases, legal aid societies that are around the country. We do some speaker events. I think I've even been featured in a few national magazines here and there and other articles. But mostly, my career remains unnotable in that respect, other than the fact that I'm probably the most well-known consultant. But moving on from there. So we as a nation have decided that anybody that cannot afford rent, that wants to sleep in any habitable place in the city, inside the city, the street, the sidewalk, even your own car, that has now been criminalized. And cities may pretty much with impunity criminalize you, arrest you, convict you of a crime. So the new way that we're going to address homelessness, according to the Supreme Court, would be that we'll allow cities basically to house you in jails and prisons. That your need for sleep, your ability to eat and survive is no longer in the Stone Ages. We're going to throw you in prison and jail, even give you fines. You don't have a job, you're sleeping out there. That's how we're going to address it. Let me tell you something. The shit is really, in my opinion, let me be very clear, the shit has really hit the fan with this. When we start deciding that only certain humans are worthy of being able to have a safe or habitable place to live, and we decide to go out there as a nation and delegate that anybody that doesn't have a roof over their head is a criminal, that's when you've lost your fucking mind. That's where the American dream is gone. This whole nation has lost its mind in so many ways. We already have enough problems. Don't we, as a nation? 30 trillion in debt. A debt we'll never be able to pay. The interest alone's $1 trillion a year, you know. But now we have time to address Mickey Mouse issues, to criminalize people and tell them that, hey, you know what? You better get your pillow and your sleeping bag and your flip-flop, and you better keep walking down the freeway and find a forest. Go live out there with the fucking squirrels, because we don't want you here in the city. Now, every resource that would address homelessness is in the city. So you're forced to move out into an enchanted fucking forest 100 miles from any city, otherwise be subject to being a felony or being put in prison. Or what's convenient for politicians, the same people smoking cigars, sitting in their political offices, right? Popping champagne, making decisions for the other part of the country. Let me tell you how serious that is. You're in a wheelchair, you got children, a breathing machine and other things, and you're sleeping in the car. Tough shit. Take you and your children and move to the enchanted forest. That's the political view. Okay, if you're not a politician, your job is to simply move to the fucking forest. Make a mistake, face any crisis, move to the forest. It's now a felony. It's playing out now in every city, and so we've completely lost our fucking mind in this nation. And you know, this is a point where we start making decisions like this. This is when the whole Supreme Court needs to be gutted. It no longer serves any reasonable purpose, in my opinion. That when we're making dissents of this nature, it no longer serves any reasonable purpose. You'd be better off having a row of prostitutes and the devil himself running that thing than make decisions like this. Now, I understand there are complicated matters surrounding homelessness, and nobody wants doo-doo on the sidewalk, needles, and other things. But taking this far is absolutely absurd. It's creating a problem, and we're not talking about a handful of people. We're talking about 250,000 people. We already have motor crowded jails. Now we're going to let people go for marijuana offenses, but we're going to turn the homeless into felonies. And so we see what the problem is. So I'm going to challenge most of you Americans out that are struggling with housing and potentially going to become homeless. If the government don't want to help you, if the Supreme Court don't want to help you, reach out to my office. I'll help you. This is absurd. I know the ACLU and almost every other reasonable society out here, including other law firms, are fighting this, suing the shit out of them because this is crazy. Not everybody needs to be on the street. Not everybody on the street is sitting there smoking a crack pipe and drinking a beer. And to relegate everybody to a felon because they want to get sleep and they have no other safe place to go is absurd. So I've got to be honest with you. I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime, but this is where we are. So let me read you what it says here. In the biggest decision on homelessness in a decade, the U.S. Supreme Court today ruled that cities can ban people from sleeping and camping in public places. And when they say public, they mean anything in the city limits. They don't mean the public park. They don't mean the public freeway. They don't even mean the Starbucks parking lot. They mean every portion of the city. If you close your eyes, you've committed a felony. If you take your children, you go out and you camp a little too long and they don't like it, they can arrest you for that now, regardless of proving whether or not you're homeless. And what it really does, it opens a floodgate for every city to make up whatever unusual and cruel punishment they want as a policy and then criminalize it. And so now we're fixing to see a much bigger issue around this nation. Meanwhile, we've got programs like Continuum of Care where we have a bunch of people with a bad attitude that can barely manage what they're doing, administrate emergency vouchers, rapid rehousing, and they can barely deal with what they've got. And now we're going to have a tidal wave of people that have they're out of options. We're out of options at this point. 3 hots in a cot in the county jail doesn't work. I just, look how long I've been doing this as a consultant. I mean, I've made so many videos. I don't even know how to kind of address this because it's no longer even in the hands of even a person like myself or even you. Because we've allowed the Supreme Court to do whatever the fuck it wants, basically. And we let a handful of people that have never known homelessness make decisions for the entire nation. And they have the highest court in the land. Nobody can overturn this except for the Supreme Court itself. It's time for changes. It's time for serious change in this country. When we're asking people in wheelchairs and seniors to go and move into the enchanted forest, when we're throwing people in prison park, we've become a socialist country. Worse than Russia, worse than China. This is an example. Where does it stop? And so many will argue, oh, well, this is limited. Now the interpretation is not limited. It's actually unlimited to every city that wants to do it. And let me tell you something right now, in the Western states, man, let me tell you, you live in California, they're going to go on a rampage. Everybody's going to get arrested out there. They're going to arrest everybody in California that even looks homeless. You so much as even close your eyes at the bus stop, you're gone. They're already talking about it. This is exactly what those politicians wanted. An excuse to criminalize everything. And I won't be surprised if the fallout leans itself to even people that aren't even homeless because it gives police departments unwielding power over anybody out there that they would perceive. They only need to think that you're homeless to throw your ass in jail. Once you're in there, if you can't bond out, then you lose everything you've got, your job, your home, everything. For those that aren't even homeless. And for those that are homeless, it makes it impossible. How is my office going to work with a bunch of people with felony records? Fresh ones at that. And so we're going to see massive fallout with this if this cannot be overturned somehow. If we're going to do this to humans, then what happens to animals and pets? Should we criminalize that too? We got so many different things we could fry. If we're going to have a fish fry and throw down big decisions, but we've got nothing on the books, right? We've got no important decisions as a nation to make that we have now time to sit here and make dissenting decisions at the Supreme Court level. And what I want to do is thank Oregon City Grand Pass. They are the motherfuckers that started this stuff. So just to be clear, everybody, the city is from Oregon, Grand Pass. You can thank the attorneys and politicians of that part of the state in Oregon for all of this. If you don't agree with it, I got to tell you, man, that city right there, will be remembered as the lowest piece of dog shit that there is on the planet after this, what they've done. And they managed to win this thing in the Supreme Court. And so I don't recommend Oregon City Grand Pass to anybody for any reason. As far as I'm concerned, that whole town should be auctioned off and everybody in there evicted. This is your legacy, Grand Pass, Oregon. I hope you're really, really proud of yourself and your city. Because in my opinion, y'all are the most worthless people ever to live for what you've done here. I can only hope that at some point the Supreme Court will reconsider this notion that lawsuits will prevail and that they tone down the language of this and at least take out the criminality of it. Because let me tell you another thing. For those of you that are late on rent, can't pay rent, how long before you think the Supreme Court rules on that and decides, like the great state of Alabama, that non-payment of rent is now a criminal offense where the police come to your door and because you didn't pay rent, that you go to jail? How long do you think before that plays out? They've already won the weakest part of this deal. So it's basically we're at the bottom of the hill and we're working our way up. So watch yourself with this. I don't like using a lot of profanities, but in my lifetime, there's many, many things that I have seen come and go. This is by far the worst thing I've ever seen out of any decision for any purpose, ever. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of things I don't agree with. This has got to be the lowest. All right, so I'm going to go on and make comments, and I'm sure people in the channel will have both opinions from both sides of the aisle, good and bad. As long as you do not say things you're not supposed to say in this live chat, I won't block you. I'm okay with hearing the good and the bad, and also the reasoning behind both. So, good morning, Diecast says, always invoke the ADA early and often. The jail is in the Stone Age. You're correct. Dolphin McMurray, good morning. Terry Norman, this is pure BS. Marie, this is so disheartening. Chris Create, it's really disheartening. Tiz says, what's your take on Galvin use of giving zero payment mortgage programs to migrants? Well, Tiz, I'd love to share, but I don't really think that would follow along the guidelines with the video today. I love to share topics, but I believe that would be a topic on its own. Chris Cree says, so inhumane, cancer-free. I live in Indiana and homeless and on oxygen, 58 and homeless. I hope you don't end up serving time in prison for that. I honestly do. I encourage all of you that are facing homelessness, that have any means in which ever possible, that if you are addressed by police, arrested, or feel that you're going to be arrested in any manner, please do reach out to my office, okay? Guys, I think that we've reached a critical impasse with homelessness in this country, and I think that the only solution at this point is to lobby every state and every city to reconsider options in terms of homelessness, and we need an emergency housing we need an emergency housing program that's more expansive than what was delivered during the pandemic. We need one ASAP. Now, I believe that at this point, there's only a general guideline for emergency housing vouchers, many of which don't even have funding right now. So I think that as things play out with this and the issues become even greater, that the U.S. government's going to have to intervene in this process. We cannot allow police departments and politicians to act with impunity to those that are sick and vulnerable, that are seniors, disabled, and otherwise. You just cannot. And do keep in mind this law also will attach itself to anybody under the age of 18 that will be convicted as a felon. So if we've got a 12 or 13-year-old that is homeless, it also will become a convicted felon and thrown in jail because it has violated both federal law. It makes no distinction for children as well. It just means that the child will get less prison time. You see how egregious this is? You see what happens when we allow politicians to make decisions for everybody in the country without little thought to this. Nobody's digressing to look at anything. And this is all because they're good folks. The good folks of Grand Pass, Oregon, decided that they wanted to make an example of their little shitbag town. And now they've managed to push it through, somehow through the Supreme Court, them and their lower than the depths of hell lawyers that have done this. And the nation itself and everyone that is homeless in this nation will pay the consequences in varying degrees. Well, I don't really feel a point to sit here and disseminate over and over about the same topic, but I will say this. I expect that in the next couple of months, we will see a reaction at the presidential level, whether we have a new election or not. We will also see other actions being taken, I think, at the local level as well to counter some of this. So I'm going to be tracking this as much as I can. I'm going to be depending on many of you, which are potentially facing homelessness or already homeless, to chime in and let us know, at least at my office, what's happening out there in different cities and states, because I'd like to keep track and see, and I'm going to reach out to many of the legal aid societies around the country that we have already have a reputation with or established relationship, and see what can be done. So I don't really know what angle to follow with this. I'm really just surprised at all what's happened. So, well, guys, I think at this point I'm going to wrap up the video. I think I've said what I need to say about this. I think the warning has been levied against us all. I think we're all just a minute from homelessness. The minute you can't afford something and you get put out your place, this is a consequence. How badly this whole is going to play out is going to be probably pretty bad. I would say, on a scale of 1 to 10, if we had a pandemic that would be at an 8 or 9, that this would be a close ranking number 7. In other words, it's going to be a national problem, and it's likely going to plaster all over the national news. And I think that it's what we call a slow tidal wave. While it's a trickle right now, as the consequences of this play out, I think that a lot of cities are going to get sued. And I think this will become a national debate of the next political, and at least for the presidency, coming up. I hope that the people that are going to take the White House and the ones that are in there do something. Don't just sit on your fucking hands. Do something, man. You've been given a job to protect American people. That extends to both those with the roof and without a roof. If you cannot protect the American people against unjudicious behaviors, then you need to get out the office. Seriously. I wish that HUD would have something to say in this matter. And I hope that we have a lot of legislators in Congress look at this and make some reparations at your budgetary level to address how to deal with the fallout from this. And I really, really do feel bad for the people of the state of California and Washington, because they will see the brunt side of this. I think that if follow that is the state of Florida. That if I had to say the states that are going to be most affected by this early on is going to be the state of California, state of Florida, potentially parts of New York. Clearly, Washington and Oregon are going to be almost like a concentration camp when it comes to this. So I think there's a lot to consider here and a lot that will play out. I'm going to address some last comments here, and then I'm going to close it out. I just really wanted you guys to have something to digest. This is what makes America great? I don't think so. This is the American dream? I don't think so. Will we start getting rid of the helpless and the homeless and the disabled? We're no longer Americans, are we? We're just a regime. We're no better than any other third world country when we start doing stuff like this. So I don't see it any other way. And I don't think anybody with any ethical or moral center would see it any other way. All right. So let's see where I left off. Alpine Glitch. Oh my God. Are they going to put the children in jail too, or foster care? Well, to be honest with you, the law is very clear about it now. The Supreme Court says what they've said. It doesn't matter if it's a children, a child, or a pet. If you sleep in the city and you're homeless, you go to jail. Christian V goes, thank you for caring. Legacy Art Games, when they sit on such a high pedestal, it's easy for them to ignore the consequences. I've always said that. We allow people in Harvard and Yale and the rest of these institutions to write policies and procedures, hand them off to legislators and Congress and so on, in the Supreme Court. These people have never known a day. They don't even know what it's like to walk into a dollar store, but they're making decisions for people when they've never in their life known any of that. The only thing they get is dissents and reports from other agencies. This is ridiculous. Brisky Mix, hello, glad to catch the live. Glad to have you here, and good morning. Cancer Free, absolutely, thank you for sharing and caring. Let me tell you guys, this isn't even a matter of caring anymore. This is about a last act, a last measure to have dignity as a country. Every nation's looking at this right now and going, what the hell? Have we just completely lost it? All grip of reality? we've done stuff. This here is worse than almost any other thing that I can think of in any other country that we have balked at. Look at it. Look how we're going to be viewed now. Christian to be in October this year. All right, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you. If you're facing homelessness or other issues, I encourage you to reach out to any professional out there, including our office. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com, and I'm happy to work with anybody that needs help. And I'll be looking forward to hearing from you guys and your comments. If you have been arrested or charged or have potential issues related to this anywhere in this nation, please do reach out through comments, our office, or email. I'd like to hear your story. Thank you for coming. We will see you Sunday. I'm going to address a follow-up to this video, as well as we're going to talk about some rather serious issues playing out related to housing vouchers and emergency housing vouchers this Sunday, probably around 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, better known as Mountain Time. And I'm going to say our last goodbyes to the last few people that commented. Ira Stormo, we are going back to the time pauper prisons. Yes, we are. If we can imprison people for being homeless, then we can imprison you for anything. Sally Richard, I'm dumbfounded. I am too. You see, I'm a man of little explanation today, and I'm usually pretty good about running my mouth in videos. Today, I have little solution to this. I have to consider the fallout and what could even be potentially done. Krista B, then the debts in prison. Yep. First, we indenture you, then we imprison you, and then we put you in servitude. This is what it means to be an American now. This is what it means to be an American. The minute you make a mistake and you can't pay your rent, you find yourself sleeping in the car, you're now a criminal. Congratulations on being an American. It'd probably be a little easier to move to North Korea at this point. All right, guys, y'all have a great day.